LeBron James, I don't believe is going to play more than half the games this season. If he crosses the 40 game mark, I'll be surprised. And so it puts us in a situation where it's like even if he's back and he can give us spurts on defense or moments on defense, but he's not going to be this consistent defender. And Austin Reeves has shown us, I think, too much offensively for me to feel comfortable trading him. Welcome to another episode of the A.K.A. podcast, A.K.A. the podcast where we ask questions like, should the Lakers cut LeBron? Is Cristiano Ronaldo overrated? And is Messi underrated?
I agree with two of the
Best
three
in the world is not enough for Messi. He should be the best in the universe. I will say though that I feel like it's not a debate anymore as to whether who's better, Messi or Ronaldo. I feel like that used to be a thing that you'd see all the time online. That World Cup just shut everyone up.
I could tell you from my friends, half of them still believe.
Bro,
Actually,
your friends are just rage baiters. You could never be me. I've never rage baited in my life.
yeah, sure.
Speaking of rage bait, if you're listening on Spotify, then we're going to start with Karam and I. We're going to go through my most overrated XI, and then we're going to talk some Barcelona and some basketball. And then afterwards, you'll hear from Karam. He replaced us with two other people.
Yeah.
And
Also, the initials AA, so they actually
That's
work
right.
perfectly.
Yeah, work perfectly. But they're going to go through. They'll be our first guests on the pod, and they're going to go through their most overrated XI. But I'll let Karam introduce them later. Okay, Karam. So I did hear part of the overrated XI from you and our guests. I'm not going to reference it too much because I want it to be a surprise, but I will say there were some pretty outrageous takes, and I'm gonna try and beat that. I'm gonna try and one up it. You ready?
Up it? You're going in with knowing you have outrageous takes? Is this the mentality?
I mean, I think the whole point in an overrated XI, let's break the fourth wall here. I feel like the whole point is to rage bait a little bit and to have some outrageous takes. Because for someone to be overrated, they need to be rated pretty highly, right? So you're gonna have
I don't think it's
some people
necessarily
that are
the
upset.
goal. I don't think it's the goal. I just think that the overrated thing in itself can be a subjective thing because it's people transition from overrated and underrated often based off the person, you know?
Yeah,
But yeah.
that's true. And that was part of the difficulty with this exercise. It's for someone to be overrated, they need to be rated, and then it's a player could be great. I have a couple players on here that I think are terrific players. Actually, more than a couple that I think are terrific players, but I still think they're overrated, right? Because I just think
Right.
they're not as terrific as other people think they are. Anyway, how do you want to do? Should I start from the goalkeeper and go up, or from the offense and go down?
Option one.
Goalkeeper and go. Okay. All right. Well, the keeper, and I have a couple players from this team on here, but the keeper I have is Victor Valdez. I the team I know most. I know the back of my hand was that treble winning Barcelona team, and I think that a few players on this list for me are players that I feel benefited from being on a really great historic team. And I think Valdez is one of those players. I just remember growing up thinking why can't Barcelona have an elite goalkeeper? I was also a Spain fan, and so I'd always be jealous of Real Madrid for having Iker Casillas. There were some other great goalkeepers at the time, and so I just
Pepe Reina was even rated higher than Valdez at the time. Especially due to his hero. He was highly rated in his seasons with Liverpool. So it's not really yeah.
I think I'm thinking about it more in terms of when people look back at it now, people are saying "Oh, Victor Valdez was underrated" to the point where now I feel like he's become overrated. I remember before the Classicos just being terrified of having him in goal, and I think that spoke to the fact that he would make mistakes sometimes. There was that time in the Super Cup where he gave the ball off to Di Maria and he got chipped from 1 inch away from.
But let
Di
me tell
Maria.
you, it was much better than having Pinto in goal. So maybe that helped.
I don't know, dude. I feel so there was towards the end when Guardiola's last season, Valdez got injured and Pinto played a lot of the games, and I actually remember feeling there's no difference to me.
There is no way. You can't tell me you weren't absolutely terrified with Pinto in net. Are you
Not
serious?
much more than
Yeah,
within
I was
Valdez.
terrified. This guy became a rapper 3 years later. I swear. Like, what are you talking
Yeah,
about? Like,
there were rumors going around that the only reason he was on the team was because he was like one of Messi's really close friends.
it wouldn't surprise me. He was a trash. After that, I think we were so traumatized of having Pinto as our sub keeper. We made it a golden rule to have two first team keepers in the squad. You know.
That's true. Yeah, and but I always feel like Barcelona, I mean, Bravo was pretty good at his peak, but he wasn't at his peak for very long with Barcelona. And then Ter Stegen had his moments, but I always felt like Barcelona never had that elite goalkeeper. And now we have Juan Garcia, who should be coming back soon, right? So hopefully, he looked like he could be like that elite keeper for a while, given his age. But yeah, in goalkeeper, I have Victor Valdez. All right, at left back, I have another player from that team, and I promise it ends here. So don't be too upset with me if I keep naming Barcelona players. But again, they're players that I knew very well at the time. I have Eric Abidal.
I don't feel like he's that rated.
I feel like looking back, people like it's a
Just
again.
say it straight. It's because he beat cancer twice. You feel like they rate him higher. You know what I'm saying? Just say it.
Yeah, he's a very like loved player. Maybe that doesn't have to do completely with his footballing skills. But I
I
still
mean,
think like he was I just remember watching that team, he was such a weakness on the left side. And I mean, to his credit, we had Dani Alves and Messi linking up on the right, which is hard to compete with, but it always felt like the left side was always the biggest weakness, and that's where we would have a lot of trouble defensively. And so I feel like he has to take some of the brunt for that. It's like you look at this like historic team, in my opinion, the best team of all time, and I think those were the two weak spots in the team, Abidal and Valdez, and so it just kind of like puts it into like kind of made
yeah.
me want
The
to put
only
them in
thing I'll
there.
say is in the Barcelona system, at least like at that time, the fullback that is put on the opposite side of the attacking fullback is kind of sacrificed instead of in terms of like getting the stats. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah,
when we had Jordi Alba, lots of the time the person at right back. I mean, we never really had that great of right backs,
yeah,
but like that person was always put to stay back a bit more, even if it wasn't their strong suit. Like Semedo would have to drop actually deeper a lot of the time than even Jordi Alba
not his
was.
strong suit,
It
which I
was
don't know
off.
what his strong suit was, but it was definitely not his defense was definitely not his strong suit. Yeah, I know what you mean, but yeah, I have him in there as well. Um, Looking at this team, I feel like I mean it's not all the way across the board, but I do have a lot of players from that era, which is the era that I'm like most familiar with, to be honest. So, okay, center backs, I'm gonna name them both. I have David Luiz and Nicolas Pepe. So
You don't. His first name is not Nicholas. I'm pretty sure. You're talking about
it's
that's
not.
winger Arsenal.
Yeah, sorry, no.
Yeah, you just mean Pepe, and no one knows his first name. I don't even think Pepe is his actual name.
Right. What is his? No, it's like Pepe dos Santos or something, right?
Yeah, it's always like that with the Brazilians. Like,
Yeah.
but yeah, we're talking about it
No,
in a complete
I
Pepe.
have the former Arsenal winger at center back.
No, Pepe's real name is Kepler Levaran de Lima Ferreira. There's no such thing
Okay,
as
yeah,
Pepe.
never
So
mind. Anyway, that
half of his
that
real name. Yeah,
that asshole, to be honest, like I hate that guy so much. He like honestly, I just put him in there because I'm like thinking back to those times, like oh man, he was such an aggressive ape. It's like he would. I was convinced he had the most red cards of all time at the time when I was younger, and I know that's not factual. But that's
yeah.
how it felt like,
He
just
would just
given the
put in
way that
like
he
a
would play.
very crazy tackle once in a while. I think the common theme with both of your center backs is pretty aggressive fullbacks, and you
100%.
they're
Yeah, that's
prone to
especially with
mistakes.
David Luiz. I feel like he was really rated for his goal scoring at one point. Like he'd score a couple like crazy
Free
free
kicks. Yeah,
kicks.
he
He'd
had
go
famous.
forward a lot. Yeah. And but he's like way too risky of a center back. I mean, he was one of those center backs in the 7-1 loss to Germany. And he was kind of exposed because Thiago Silva didn't play that game, if I remember correctly. And so he was kind of like left to lead the defense, and he's just not a very strong defensive center back, which is kind of the main role of a center back. And Pepe, like, just his style of play always disgusted me, just super aggressive, and Messi cooked him so many times. It was insane. There'll always be that clip of him stepping on Messi's hand that will like always piss me off so much.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, those are my center backs. And at right back, I actually struggled a lot with this, and I'm actually interested to go and listen through your entire segment with our guests because I want to see who you guys put at right back. But my right back is Trent Alexander Arnold. And I actually really like Trent, and I feel like he actually would get a lot of criticism from some people. Um, but just given how much of a defensive liability he can be, I feel like I had to put him in there, and honestly could not think of um, anyone else. Right backs in general, a lot of really solid ones, and like I feel like right backs are either considered to be really good or they're like oh that like they're not rated. So it
Yeah,
was kind of hard for me to find
yeah.
someone. And then my midfield, I have Pogba in there.
Oh, oh.
What's wrong, dude?
This guy has suffered so much hate. You just adding it on, but honestly, I get it, but I think that people also forget how good he was in his prime. But his overall career is overrated.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, I think I was also kind of looking at this where it's like I have a couple players in here, especially in the attack, that I feel like individually are good players or very skilled players, but then when you look at their entire body of work and their careers, you feel like they underperformed. And I feel like Pogba is one of them where you just had so many expectations on him that he didn't follow up on. I mean, I was just looking. He's never won a Prem. He's never won the FA Cup. He's never done anything in the Champions League.
He was a Man U player, bro. That's all it took.
Yeah,
Not
it's
really up
true.
on him.
He played for Juve too, and it was
I
actually
mean,
pretty
his
good.
heroics in France could be considered enough, and then him being considered like probably considered for that Juventus side the best player at his age. So you're talking about a person that's led his team to a Champions League final, and on top of that is a huge contributor to World Cup success. And you also can't forget how good he was in the Euros and like how he absolutely like well, practically like helped carry them before they got the comeback made on them by like Switzerland. So
Yeah, yeah. I mean, again, like I think that some of these players were based on bodies of work, and I feel like he did not achieve as much as one might think. At some point, people were calling him, the best midfielder in the world, and so I just think he under delivered. Um, and then my next midfielder is James Rodriguez. This guy made a name off of one World Cup campaign where I actually don't think he was that good. Like, it was just like, I just feel like he led Colombia to the
wait,
quarterfinals.
do you think okay, you had me, then you lost me. Because you're talking about that World Cup performance as if it wasn't insane. You're saying like you need to realize Colombia and the amount of goals he scored. How are you not considering that to be like an elite level performance? Like, how's that not a great performance? I understand overall career, he's living off of that World Cup for a lot of it. But are you saying the World Cup also the performance was overrated?
I think that for me, if you perform really well in a tournament, I need to see that it's actually a sign of some kind of class or level in your game. After that World Cup, he moved to Real Madrid and honestly flopped given the expectations of what people thought of him. There are these players that have these amazing World Cup runs and then they get like right away they get a move to a top club.
But it
Just
wasn't. But again, like what? It wasn't necessarily a lack of quality that made him fail at Real Madrid, bro, right? Like it was not the lack of quality that made him fail even at Everton. It was like injuries. It was like not being able to play inconsistently. So like I can understand we're talking about like how he might be remembered more fondly, but the guy won a Golden Boot in the World Cup, and you remember that even that game where he scored against us, in the Clasico. Of course, eventually like it didn't matter, but I'm just saying if we're looking at James Rodriguez as the quality, I don't think after the World Cup he went and then didn't live up to his quality. I just don't think he lived up to the career. Does that make sense?
Sure. Sure. Yeah, and I think part of it is injury for sure. So he played 85 games in 4 years following that World Cup run for Real Madrid. He was on loan to Bayern Munich during that time as well, and he played 43 games for the 3 years. Well, not during that time; it was 7 years total. 43 games. Um, for Bayern Munich in 3 years. So he just did not have a lot of opportunities, and I think that kind of led to his
Yeah, it's just
poor
after the
body of
World
work.
Cup, after the World Cup, right? In his first season, he got La Liga midfielder of the season. So it's no doubt that the quality was still there. He was an unreal player. It's just the following seasons after that he struggled with injuries. I'm just
So
more trying to get it across. It's
yeah.
more about a career thing than it is a quality
hmm
thing. So
So when
even
you did this exercise, were you basing it mainly on career, or you think just like how people rate the quality of player?
so it was more about how people perceive the. It's a mix of both. It was more about how will people remember this person's greatness, which factor in how good they were, mixed in how available they were in terms of like longevity. So if a player is remembered, so if I feel like a player's quality has made people forget how unavailable he was, that made them overrated.
Mm,
If I believe that someone's long term consistency makes them forget how he wasn't the greatest, that's also overrated. It's more about if people get clouded judgment because of one of those factors and forget that the other exists.
yeah, I was basing it mainly on body of work and kind of like how I see people remembering these players online. And so I think that's why a lot of these players were from that era, because people grew up watching them, and I think that you tend to idolize the players that you grew up watching. Like I did not put a single player on this list that I hadn't seen play. Like, I'm not going to put like some player from the 98 Brazilian squad
Matini
on
or
here.
something like that'd be
Yeah.
crazy, you know.
So yeah, and I think that that's like kind of it's like the streets remember kind of vibe.
There seems to be a constant theme of maybe it's just based on the time frame you watch, but it's like overrated due to nostalgia merchants. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's kind
All
of how
just
I'm seeing it. I think it's yeah, yeah.
yeah,
I
it's
think that's kind of how I was approaching it. Anyway, my next midfielder on a similar vibe was Wesley Schneider.
that that is because you're talking about a guy who played a critical role in his team getting to the World Cup final and he won a treble.
Yeah, but what did he do outside of that season?
I
He
mean,
had
you're
13
talking.
goals in 76 games for Inter Milan. That was
Mhm.
probably his best stint. And then he moved to Galatasaray at the age of 29, just a couple years after that season. 3 years after, in 2013.
It's hard looking back due to how early people's primes kind of ended back in the day, but 29 even then is pretty
Yeah.
early. So
And that's the thing. I feel like it's another one of those players where he had, like, I think I remember at the time people were giving him shouts for the Ballon d'Or. And I think that in today's day and age, he would have won the Ballon d'Or. Because the Ballon d'Or nowadays is like, were you participating in teams that had a lot of success that year, like Jorginho, for example? I think if Jorginho won the Ballon d'Or for what he did with Italy and Chelsea, then I think Schneider had to win the Ballon d'Or, like in modern era, for what he did with Inter Milan Netherlands. Um, I felt at the time, and I still feel that Messi 100% deserved it as the best player in the world. I think that Schneider again gave me more of like Jorginho vibes, where he was important. He was an important part of both of those teams, but he wasn't the most important,
he is
and he didn't do
arguably
anything
he is
after.
arguably the best player though in that Inter Milan side. Even then, like I know you want to talk about Eto and these people, but he
Yeah,
was recognized as like the midfield, like the engine and like everything about that team. Like he was playing multiple roles, and not just that. I think I more focus on how he performed for Netherlands in like Euros tournaments and like 0408 and like the World Cup like 2010, like how people talk about it because I believe like he was getting like he got either the silver he got one of the top three best players in one of those tournaments in the Euros. He was class and all that stuff. So I think maybe I'm looking more at the Netherlands success that he had while being considered the best player alongside like a Van Persie in these sides.
yeah,
But yeah, I agree with you that his club career could be considered highly overrated.
yeah, yeah. I mean, he was the engine of that midfield for sure. When you had like Zanetti in the defense and Eto and Diego Milito up top, and it wasn't like he was carrying them to these
Hmm.
successes. Okay, so now for my front three, where I have a couple. You thought those shots were ridiculous? Just wait. I'm gonna start with one that I think I alluded to, that I was going to include him in this overrated XI. It's just a matter of principle. I have Vinicius in my overrated.
I'm
That
here.
dude is a pace merchant. He's absolutely trash. People were saying that he needed he should have won the Ballon d'Or in 2024. Not even close, mate. Not even close. He had 46 goals in 97 games over the last 2 seasons, including the season where people said he should have won the Ballon d'Or. And I think he was also a result of a strong midfield on Real Madrid and a playing style that helped him get a lot of goal scoring opportunities. But I mean, watching him this season, he'll have moments, but for the most part, it just seems like all right, this guy is quick and he gets in behind, and sometimes he finishes.
Even in his best seasons, he was considered inconsistent at some point. So that's his.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, I'm a little scared to say this, to be honest. Another former Barcelona player. Do you want to guess who it is?
If I hear Luis Suarez, I'm
No, no, no,
throwing the
no.
chair.
Absolutely not. No, Luis Suarez is one of the best goal scorers
So
of
are we
all
talking about
time.
striker or winger?
He's a winger.
David. I guess David Villa is not a wing. Both.
No, David Villa is one of my favorite players ever, by the
But
way.
you could consider. I honestly, when I think about it, could be easily considered overrated because.
No, we're not talking about that. David Villa was the reason that I
But if
watched,
you
like, I
want to
support
wait,
Spain in
if you want to
2010.
talk about Schneider being overrated, there's a lot of evidence to back that up with David Villa in terms
Yes,
of
I know, Karam, but I'm
okay,
emotional about this
okay,
point. So
a winger, Neymar.
yeah.
Have you lost your mind? What do you mean Neymar's overrated in terms of what though? The
Okay,
guy.
this is why I think
Wait,
this is why I think he's overrated. I think this is one of those players where I mean, like, he's a great player, and I think he's a terrific player. But I think that for where he's overrated for where people rate him, which is one
I
of the
think
best
people
players of all
forget
time.
how good. Even now, people forget how good he is, dude. Ahmed, I,
From like a
you
potential and a skill standpoint, yeah, of course, you watch him play and you're like, oh, that could be one of the best players of all time.
you know what's
But in terms
crazy
of his
though?
actual delivering on those talents, I feel like he's
Okay,
not up there.
he was a top three Ballon d'Or nomination in the peak of Ronaldo and Messi. He was a top 10 Ballon d'Or nomination at Santos. At Santos, tell
Yeah,
me one
I'm not. I completely disregard anything he's done outside of Europe. I'm not
Confederations
going to even
Cup.
think of
His
that.
performances in the Confederations
That's
Cup.
his one trophy he won with Brazil.
His,
One in
oh,
South America. People killed Messi for not winning anything with Argentina.
but
Neymar
dude,
hasn't done anything. No Copa Americas, no World Cup wins, just one Confederations Cup. That's not even a tournament anymore, by the way. And he has one UCL
we
on
know
a
that
terrific
it was a
Barcelona
trophy.
team with Messi and Suarez. He hasn't done anything since COVID. Nothing since
I
2020.
agree with that, but I'm saying if you look at the time frame of how good he was, people act like he was only good for 2 to 3 years. This guy was still good for a good like 6 to 7 years.
Good, but
Wait, I have a
people
question
say
for you.
he's like the best, one of the best players of all time. You said
He's
he
in,
was third in the Ballon d'Or rankings, right? He came third twice.
that's
Okay.
good in the Messi Ronaldo peak era. Getting third
You
twice
know
is
who
good.
else came third twice? Antoine Griezmann.
No,
Look at Griezmann's World Cup performances
was that
compared to Neymar's World Cup
was that in the
performances.
peak of Ronaldo? Was that in the peak of Ronaldo? That wasn't
Griezmann did come third with Messi and Ronaldo one.
1 year, one of those years. But my point is this, and what I'm gonna say is very clear, is that Neymar got it in the absolute peak of their powers, where other people were much more competitive,
So he came third.
and Neymar wasn't doing
Xavi
it.
and Iniesta came second and third with
Okay, you're
Messi
talking about Xavi and
after
yes,
the World
the
Cup.
best midfielders of all time. Exactly. Why are you
Who
acting
else
like
came
you're
third?
putting them up?
Neuer's come third. Van Dijk's come third. Jorginho's like uh Ribery's come third to
Okay,
Messi and
okay, listen,
Ronaldo
listen. But okay, Neymar has taken a PSG team to the final of the Champions League. Genuinely willed it during
with
COVID.
Mbappe. That was like a super
He
team.
was by far the best player on that team, Neymar, that year. His year at 17, 18, his prime, his first season at PSG, he was incredible before the injury. He was playing as a number 10. His seasons at Barcelona, he was literally just getting better and better. And I'm telling you, and I will repeat this again, getting 10th, top 10 nomination at Santos.
I don't care.
At Santos,
I couldn't
that
care
is
less.
enough to not consider him overrated. No
I
other,
couldn't care less, bro.
I
I
don't
don't
know if
care
there's
what
a
you
player
do
in the
in
world.
Brazil, bro.
I don't know if
Come to
there's a
Europe
player
and
in
do
the
it.
world, dude. Just because his performance is also at like you're talking about where he's doing outside with Santos against other
It's
competition.
unacceptable. I would say this about Messi too. When Messi didn't, it was always like a sticking point that I could not argue against with Ronaldo fans that Messi did not have a Copa America and even a
So
World
the
Cup.
difference between Messi, so you're telling me right now, the difference between Messi jumping up between that gap and Ronaldo is the decision of if Argentina players were capable of converting penalties or not. If Emiliano Martinez could save penalties,
Messi has two Copa Americas and a World Cup. It's not
is
just
this,
like one game that
is
they
this
got lucky
tennis?
in.
Is this tennis? I will state this right now. the games that the finals in which Messi won the Copa America were worse than his other two finals where he lost the Copa
Sure,
America.
but you don't just look at a finals when you're considering like
Neymar
the entire
outperformed Messi.
international body of
Neymar
work.
outperformed Messi in the Copa America final against Brazil and Argentina. What do
Okay,
you
but
say
you're
about that?
talking about it like what differentiates Neymar and Messi on the world stage is one Copa America. It's two Copa Americas and a World Cup.
But my point is this: it's not. It has nothing to. We can't look at trophies. We can't just go and say because you have not won an international trophy, I don't rate you. This is an 11v11 sport.
I'd agree if you weren't talking about a player as if he's one of the best of all time. I think at that point you have to have won something for your country, especially in South America. Like people were right to criticize Messi back when he hadn't won anything with Argentina and Chile got two Copa Americas over him. Like it is like I think it does count for something. I think okay, so since Neymar went to Europe, right? Because he had an incredible goal scoring record at Santos. It's tough to compare what he did to Santos to anything that anyone else has done in Europe because it's just a completely different level.
But
Okay.
he clearly did it when he was at Santos. Like he was clearly doing it against other competition. He was doing it against European teams.
So Griezmann has has the same number of third place Ballon d'Or nominations at two, right?
While Neymar having
Has
injury problems, you need to keep in mind when he was actually
That's
capable of
part of it.
playing.
That's
He
part of what
compared.
makes or breaks a career. It's injuries. And
But
so
he's
when you're
had
rating someone, you have to take into consideration their availability.
no.
Griezmann,
What I'm telling you is what I'm telling you, right? Neymar. Okay, look, Neymar. Why did he get top 10 nomination? Right, his performances at the Club World Cup against other competition. Right, this isn't just a guy that did it at Santos. You don't get top 10 Ballon d'Or nomination because you balled out at Santos. You don't just get it because you played well in the Brazilian league. You get a top 10 Ballon d'Or nomination because he proved himself against other teams. He proved himself on the national stage in these seasons. He proved himself as the best player we've ever seen play in Brazil since like Pele.
mm-hmm.
So I'm
Yeah.
just saying, like he did stuff in his career that I think suffices because you're not talking about a 2 year peak. You're talking about multiple year peaks. Because by the way, he did that in 2011. From 2011 all the way till 2018, we're talking about a top five player in the world.
So in terms of body of work, how would you compare Neymar to Griezmann?
I don't care about body of work. I care about looking at players' quality. I care
Okay.
how good of a player were you in that if you were that good of a player, top five player for 8 years in a row,
Neymar is a better player than Griezmann. Let me make that clear. A much
miles,
better player.
miles.
But given the talent and the potential, I feel like he should have done more to create more of a gap. I mean, you look at their goal scoring record. Neymar has a better goal scoring record since coming to Europe, but it's not as huge as you might think.
How many games?
So he had 235 games, 150 goals, and
Yes.
Griezmann had 579 games, 205 goals.
So
Yeah,
congrats, Chris, when you played double the games. Like
it's a big difference for sure, even in terms of ratio. But I think that like where they're rated all time is an even higher gap, and I think that like I'm just trying to make a point, not that Griezmann and Neymar are comparable quality of players, just that Neymar should have been able to do more with the quality that he has.
Neymar is also the Brazil all-time top goal scorer above Pele. Just so you know.
Okay. All right. So I think that was a successful range bait overall. Uh, the last player I have in this 11, and I did see some of the clips from your Overrated XI, so I will spoil it. You had Bale in there, which I thought was a good shout, and I wanted to put him in there. But for the sake of
La ilaha illallah. So you put Neymar in, but you didn't put Bale. Well, I don't know who you.
no, I'm saying I wanted to put Bale in. I wanted to put Bale in, but for the sake of having more talking points, since you're going to talk about Bale later, right? I decided to put in a different overrated Premier League player, all-time
Sure,
Premier
man.
League player.
Sure, man.
So, so okay, so this is the Premier League player who's rated as one of the best of all time. He's in the Premier League Hall of Fame.
Wayne Rooney,
No, no. Although
Sergio Aguero.
I could no.
Aguero, to be fair, I could
Aguero's
hear it because
terrific. Are
Argentina,
you?
the guy did nothing.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but now you're saying okay, Aguero did nothing but Neymar. Okay,
What do you mean? Aguero at the peak of his powers, Higuain was a starter for Argentina.
Aguero's like probably the top three Premier League player of all time.
Not even close.
Well,
Henri's better. Rooney's better. Give me Harry Kane over him any day of the week. I
Okay.
don't care if you're not even winning
All right.
titles.
All right. So who do you think I have? He's also a winger. I put three wingers up top. Sue me.
A winger in Prem, Salah. Winger in the
I
Prem,
guess.
current player.
No.
All time, you did say Ryan Giggs, Ryan Giggs,
Okay. I'll
David
tell you.
Beckham.
Eden Hazard. I mean, okay. I don't actually don't think this is a crazy shout. To be completely honest with you.
Wow.
Okay. People talk about Hazard like he is like a top like 10 Premier League player of all time. And I completely disagree. People were talking like this is one of those players where people underrated him to the point where he became overrated. In 245 games, he has 85 goals in the Premier League.
Yeah, as a winger who played like the Messi, like a number, like he played a deeper role because
Okay,
also
well, so that ratio of 85 to 245 is a little over 33%. You know who has a better ratio than that? Ollie Watkins. Ollie Watkins has a better goal scoring ratio
yeah,
than
congrats. The
Eden
striker
Hazard.
has a better goal scoring ratio than the winger. Yeah, that's nice. The
I
winger that
think he's
doesn't play like
extremely
an inside
overrated.
forward.
He had like he was a good Premier League player. Then he went to Real Madrid and completely flopped. He the thing
Fuck, he
that
got
made me
injured.
really
He didn't play football.
the thing that really like pushed the needle for me in terms of wanting to put him in the squad is that he's been inducted. He recently got inducted into the Premier League Hall of Fame, which I believe only takes retired players. So Cristiano Ronaldo, for example, is not in it. But you know who else isn't in it? Van Persie and Michael Owen. I think that Hazard is extremely overrated. I don't know what he did to deserve this kind of treatment as a Premier League great, to be honest with
I don't want to talk anymore.
you. You know,
We won't talk because, to be honest, you're talking about a guy who got 2 seasons as League One Player of the Year before going to the Chelsea, a team who had
yeah,
recently.
Farmers League, buddy, Farmers League.
But as a Lille player to get Player of the Year, you're playing against
That
players,
was,
are you
I
not?
mean, I guess, yeah, but that was
Okay.
like before
He then
PSG's
gets
like,
featured 4 years in a row into the PFA Premier League Team of the Year, right? He was the main player for Chelsea for 6, 7 years. Okay.
and he when did his career came to an end at the age of 28.
I understand it's due to injuries, but if we're talking about the quality of the player, if you are the main player of a top four side in the Premier League for 7 years in a row, it's hard for me to say you're overrated because you're by far the best player in the Chelsea side for that all those years. There's
Do
not a
you rate
single
him
player
over
to walk
Van
in.
Persie?
I'm saying Chelsea side.
Yeah, but do you rate him over Van Persie?
Do I rate him over Van Persie in terms of Van Persie has a better peak for sure, undoubtedly. Like you're talking at 12, 13, Van Persie is better. Does he have a better body of work in terms of what he's done in the Premier League? It's comparable. I think it's close. I'm shocked to hear Van Persie, to be honest, isn't inducted into the Premier League Hall of Fame.
Yeah, so and that alone to me makes him overrated, right? He is so there are 23 players in the Premier League Hall of Fame and he's one. To me that makes him overrated, to be honest. Like I just can't see him up there. But yeah, like obviously he's a great player. I think I appreciate longevity and I understand players get injured. I'm not trying to blame anyone for that. But I think that when you are evaluating, and I'm also again looking at this in terms of career, in terms of body of work, right? When you're evaluating a player's career, not like did he have the potential or did he show signs of like being the great player, the greatest player, or whatever for a couple seasons or whatever, you have to consider things like availability. It's just
I
like
agree. I'm
the way
not
it
saying I
is, you know.
disagree about the availability point, but to me, if someone is capable of being 8 years a peak player as one of the best in the Prem, that means that you were available enough in your career.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what happened when you went to Real Madrid is unfortunate, but I understand why you're putting him overrated. When you talk about like Van Persie, like I do think that those guys are close in terms of
Mm-hmm.
Premier League. Uh,
Do you think this is gonna do numbers on TikTok?
the Neymar shout, yes.
Yeah, I'm ready for the abuse. Okay, so you know when I looked at my team after I like wrote it down on paper, and I'll just repeat it really quickly: Valdez, Abidal, David Luiz, Pepe, Trent, Pogba, James Rodriguez, Schneider, Neymar, Vinicius, Hazard. Like I think again, if you're looking at in terms of like what these players have accomplished, I think that if you were to look at these 11 players together on a team, and forget that I don't have a striker, I think you it feels like a team that's going to disappoint.
You have a team of a guy that wasn't available due to cancer and a bunch of injured players. That's what you've got. Honestly, other than your defense, you've just named the injury XI. That's what you've done. You know what I'm
No,
saying?
I guess
Wait,
part of injuries also. So I don't know if you saw like Schneider after he joined Galatasaray a couple seasons after he joined. Dude was like very out of shape, very overweight.
in
I
Qatar.
think Neymar had a lifestyle that was obviously not conducive to having a long and strong career. And Hazard was the same thing. He definitely like let himself go. He was never like a player that was in the best shape. He had a quote. I don't know if this was like some like made up quote or whatever, but I think it has some truth to it. Where he said like, "Oh, if I trained in this way or I ate in this way, I would be better than Messi and Ronaldo or something like that, or I would compete with Messi and Ronaldo." And I think there's some truth to some of this, where it's like some of these players are players who did not put in the effort that is required to be rated as one of the best players of all time.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we're gonna take a break, give Karam a chance to cool down, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about Barcelona. All right, so we're back, and Barcelona played Elche yesterday. How do you say it? Elche? 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 That's how they say it in Spanish. Okay. Well, it was a good performance, and Karam, I want you to give me your thoughts on the game, anything you learned about the team bouncing back from the loss in El Clasico.
You know, Amr and I were talking a lot about the El Clasico game, and we felt a lot like Lamine seemed to either be dealing with injury issues or was the girl. You know what I'm saying? He broke up with the girl, and now he's back. Okay, he played
I
really,
don't.
really well.
I don't. I actually like. I don't think you can recover. Like, I don't think that week would have made that much of a difference for his injury, especially when his injury is like pubalgia or whatever. It's like a chronic pain condition, which I don't think is going to just miraculously get better after 1 week.
Yeah, you can feel a bit better, and they're still managing it, but so we're still missing Rafinha a lot. We're still not pressing the way that we would ideally look to. The rest of the team, we dominated overall. That Rafa Mir guy for Elche, this guy has been around the block. This guy has
Yeah.
listen, he's on loan from Sevilla. I remember him at Valencia. This guy's been playing at the goal, very weird. Araujo seems so sure that he's off. So basically, just as a reminder for how that goal went down, Rafa Mir makes a run from his own half, like past our defense. So from Araujo's step point of view, Rafa Mir got the ball while being behind him. So it should be offside. But of course, as the rule is known, if you make a run from your own half, you cannot be offside. So Rafa Mir makes that. Araujo then plays very, very, very unaggressive defense at all. Like practically lets him shoot. Credit to Rafa Mir, incredible finish.
Yeah.
Chesney could have done nothing about it. It was disgustingly good. But than that, beautiful goals by Rashford, beautiful goal by Lamine. Rashford's goal, just beautiful finish. Lamine's goal,
Amazing finish.
credit to
Yeah.
Balde,
Great
assist.
pass too by Fermin on Rashford.
Unbelievable. Firmine's goal for Ferran, not for just pass, like the run
Yeah.
that he makes for Ferran's goal, incredible as well.
Fermin's
Overall,
been really really good.
energy, yeah.
He has that ability to like make the right decision or finish in the final
Just
third.
direct, just incredibly direct. Overall, great bounce back. I don't have too much to say about the game, but single Lamine is great. Lamine, Dino over Dunya, brother. Dino over.
I don't think that's why he did it, but
He
it
just
definitely
matched, and he didn't do the crown celebration from what I saw. By the way,
yeah. No, I mean like I'm sure that had to do something like the loss to in El Clasico and the criticism had to do something with him ending the relationship. I mean,
and
it
not
just
not
can't be a coincidence, right? Because like she was even at the game, and now they're separated. But
no, but like Ahmed, you mentioned about him doing the King
Mhm.
symbol and you're not liking it, and I think he's self aware enough at least to know that once you've provided not a good performance for the team, you can't just score in the next game after losing to El Clasico and just be like, I'm the king again. Or
Yeah,
that would have been a much more alarming sign than him like talking before the game to me. If he had come and decided, you know what, I'm here and I'm gonna be I'm gonna talk, I'm gonna do my thing. That would have been a lot more concerning. So it was nice to see that he was at least humble enough to know that after an El Clasico loss, no one wants to see that.
It's definitely it's definitely a good sign that he's able to, yeah, like you said, be self-aware and recognize that isn't the time. And kissing the badge is obviously a symbol that showed that he had regret for how he performed. That he's focused on Barcelona. Barcelona's his, can even say is his only girlfriend. And I read a rumor somewhere that Messi called him.
I saw
Did
that,
you
but I
see
wasn't gonna
that?
comment on it because I don't feel like that's real.
Yeah, I know, but
He
I
looks
like
very unreal.
spreading rumors if it means more views.
I feel like let's keep the podcast a bit credible. Yeah, let's not get that reputation.
But I believe that someone probably spoke to him, or maybe he didn't need it. Maybe he just realized on his own.
This is this is even off topic. I mean, you could just be reading constructive criticism from online, but this is even off topic. But like, bro, growing up, what's wrong with Spanish media and spreading rumors? Like, if we did it, you can't even blame us because Spanish media love that. You know, we've had to deal with
Yeah,
it.
I always would wonder about that because there is a way that rumors get started, and it's bound to happen from any like media coverage of any league. But there is something about the Spanish league where it's like these rumors come up so quickly and they're so relevant and they're so out of left field that you feel like
They're
someone
just making it up.
has to be making it up.
Like someone knows that they're lying. You know.
Yeah. And like you expect that from maybe tabloids, but a lot of these are just like actually like the top news outlets in Spain
Yeah.
for football news. So yeah, it is pretty insane. Guardiola, when he left Barcelona, said that the main reason he left because he couldn't deal with the criticism coming from the Spanish media. And he went to the Premier League. He's been there for a while.
Yeah.
So yeah, overall, I'm really happy with the bounce back from the loss and good signs. So not really much else to say here. All right, let's move to some basketball talk. Uh,
We've been cooking.
we have been
We've been
cooking. It's
cooking.
been great. Luca's been back. We've won what, 2 games in a row since he's been back.
Yes,
Something
we've
like
won
that.
the
We
last
played the
two
Heat
games
last night
and the Grizz.
and the Grizzlies the 2 nights before that.
First NBA Cup.
Luca came back and didn't miss a step. He had 44 points, 6 assists and 12 rebounds. And last night he had a triple double with 29 points.
I want you to talk about another white boy, and his name is Austin Reeves.
Austin Reeves.
No,
Okay, yeah, I
talk
know. I
about
know.
other white boy.
Jake LaRavia, man, he's been really
Five
good.
steals was it? 5 steals, like 25 and what? It was 20.
25 points, 8 rebounds, 3 assists, and a handful of steals. Yeah, yeah, he's been great. I think like over the off season, there's DeAndre Ayton was probably the most talked about pickup just because he's the biggest name. Even though I think he also got the most criticism. Then there was Marcus Smart, but Jake LaRavia was the one that I could genuinely say I was most excited about because he's an actual good player, winning player, young player. Um,
Shooter. Absolute shooter. I swear he had A+ on 3 point when I was playing 2K last year. I
yeah,
swear. He's a cook.
no, he was very good, and players coming from the Kings, that you always feel like they can really show out because the Kings is not an environment that's good for player
Yeah.
success. And yeah, did you see the Anthony Edwards thing where he was saying like, "Who is this?" Or someone from the crowd yelled like, "Who's that white boy?" That he's like, "That's
Yeah,
what
who's
I've been
number
saying."
12?
Yeah,
Then
yeah,
Anthony Edwards like, I don't know who number 12 is. You know what I'm saying? But like, okay, let me just say, right? This is all good and all. We've been on an unbelievable run. I'm not trying to be sour at all, but there is still a very big wing defense issue in terms of
one
guard.
hundred percent, dude. I mean, even in the games, we conceded 120 to the Heat last night, and then
Which isn't the worst. The
112
Heat
to
is
the.
averaging 125 this season, so they were top three in the in
But it's
the.
like, and then 112 to the Grizzlies, and it's like, okay, like yeah, you can say like, okay, it's a high scoring league now, but just look at the total number of points that have been scored against us. It's definitely abnormal, even for like a high scoring
But what I'm
league.
highlighting is a specific wing defense issue because with guards we've actually been handling them better. Like I want us to just look at the season overall, right? what you're seeing is, for example, against the Warriors, we suffered a lot more from Butler than we did from Curry.
Mm-hmm.
Against the Heat, don't get me wrong, they were missing Norman Powell, who is probably their primary scorer right now as Tyler Harrow's injured. Jamie Rodriguez, I almost said Rodriguez because we were just talking about him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He dropped 31 on us, and
Yeah.
he's a good player, and he's been having a good start to the season. But again, he was had to do with wing defenders against the Kings. They had Keon Ellis and they had Russell Westbrook and Malik Monk. These guys are running the guard spots. The two people playing the forward spots, who were DeRozan and Zach LaVine. DeRozan felt like he could get to his mid-range spot every single time.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah,
another
I mean,
pro-
it doesn't take a rocket science. Like you just look at our lineup. Like we don't have a single
wing
wing
defender.
defender. I
Jake
mean,
LaRocque is
we
doing
have
decent, but
Marcus Smart is doing the best he can on
on
some
guard.
of the guards. We have DeAndre in who did not play last night, but he is like at least big enough to have some interior defense. And then even if Luca and Austin Reeves are giving us like 100% effort on defense, they're just never going to be good enough or like
Yeah,
good enough or strong enough
yeah.
defenders to defend the wings. So yeah, 100%, it's an issue. So that brings me to sorry, go ahead before I continue.
I feel like you were about to go into, or were we about to talk about LeBron James?
Yes, I am going to talk about because this is the truth of the matter, right? LeBron James, I don't believe is going to play more than half the games this season. If he crosses the 40 game mark, I'll be surprised. And so it puts us in a situation where it's like even if he's back and he can give us spurts on defense or moments on defense, but he's not going to be this consistent defender. And Austin Reeves has shown us, I think, too much offensively for me to feel comfortable trading him. We're
And
not trading
it's about the
Luca.
chemistry he actually has with Doncic offensively that we're getting more comfortable with. But
Yeah,
Ahmed, what you're saying is exactly what I wanted to say before this episode, and it's not necessarily of like cut LeBron. It's just because I actually have more faith on LeBron defensively. But it comes down to one thing: can LeBron truly drop the ego and consider it Doncic's team? Okay, because what we need from LeBron, I believe there is a chance we can get from LeBron an elite defensive version of himself if he's willing to take a step back on offense. LeBron only gives us spurts on defense because at his age, he's still trying to give us his all on offense. I don't
yeah,
feel like we're suffering on offense. I feel like we can score on offense. We have Doncic, of course. We have Austin Reeves. Jake LaRavia can cook. We have DeAndre Ayton who can still get you like he's not the best offensively, but he's much better offensively than he is defensively. We have like Rui Hachimura who can still light it up, from threes, can cook. He's great. My point is, what we need from LeBron, come back, don't even care about averaging more than 20 points. Come here, average 16 points, if you will.
yeah. I don't.
Play defense. Play the best defense of your career. And if he does that, then we have it. Otherwise, hey, the trade.
It's tough. It's tough to say which way he'll go because I think people are criticizing him a little unfairly and saying that oh he's like for example sitting out intentionally because he wants out or because he doesn't like that it's Luca's team. LeBron has never been in this situation before. Never in his entire like lengthy career has been in this situation. And so it's impossible to say really like which way he's gonna go with this or how he's going to handle the situation. But I agree. Like if he comes back and he can play strong defense, which like honestly, my if I had to guess, I would say it's not going to be the case. I think that it's one thing for him to ask him to take a step back or be okay with Luca leading offense. It's another thing to ask him to then put that effort into on the defensive side.
I am asking him to be okay with being the third offensive option, you know?
I think he would actually be okay with that. I think he would be okay with like being a little bit more of like a facilitator, having a little bit more spurts or whatever to kind of try and like lengthen like or take some effort off his body. But defense is like a very high effort um, side of the ball, and so I think that asking him at his age to consistently put in a top class defensive performance against the other team's best wing player is in my opinion unrealistic. I just don't think he can do it. Like he has his moments and I don't think it's because like he's deciding to like only show it in certain moments. I think he can only show it in certain moments,
Mm.
you know? I think it's
Yeah.
a question of ability rather than whether or not he
I
wants to.
think But would it be enough if he could just do it by come playoff time? Because he can do it maybe during that time. You know,
But
if
we
he
need to
really,
see it before then to know that
you're
he's
right.
capable of it, right?
Are you willing to take the risk of the like the unknown of if he will lock in by that?
I am completely fine with trading him. 100%. Depends obviously what we get back for him and what people are willing to give, and he has a no trade clause,
Like
so
we
he
would
has to
have
be
to
worth.
get a great wing defender and like another like decent scoring option in the trade for him. You know, like that's what I'm envisioning.
So there are multiple, like you're right, exactly, and there are multiple issues with that. One, that he has a no trade clause, and we don't know what's going through his head. He might want out, I don't know, but if he doesn't, then there's nothing that the Lakers can do about that. Um, and then the other thing is, where would he go? What team would want to trade for him? What team would he be willing to go to? Right? Because he'll only want to be traded to a contender, and then you have to think which contender would actually be willing to give up strong pieces that the Lakers would be willing to take, right? In order to get LeBron James and for them to feel like it's actually pushing the needle for them. Those are three different things on the Lakers side, LeBron side, and the other team's side, right?
It'd be a
That
weird thing
all
because it's
have
like
to be
it's because usually when you see a situation of where you're trading a person like that, I agree with you. It's like you're almost asking two contenders to make a trade where they believe they both get better right now.
exactly. If it wasn't LeBron James, if he didn't have the no trade clause, you could be like, we'll trade him to the Kings or whatever, and it's like a complete non-contender, and it would be maybe bad practice, but it's like, we don't care what you think, LeBron, and the Kings would obviously be very happy to have such a draw, LeBron, so it just becomes like it becomes very difficult to think of a scenario where this would work.
Yeah. So I think main question is, can LeBron play the wing defense? If he can't, maybe you got to find elsewhere. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we'll continue to like see the situation. I mean, I wonder when he'll. I think he should be back by the end of the month. If there haven't been any updates on his injury, that's what I remember them saying when the season started. But yeah, we'll continue to monitor the situation. The other thing that I wanted to quickly go over that I mentioned on our last podcast was it's been a couple weeks into the season now, and I feel like a lot of things have gone against people's expectations, everyone's expectations, pretty much. Like, who thought the Sixers would be at the top of the conference? So I was wondering if you had any takes that you regretted the most. I definitely do, but I was gonna let you
The
go
only
for it.
one I think I fully feel because all the other teams, I believe that the teams, like I said, that were well constructed have been playing with each other for a long time, only made a couple changes that just improved the team a bit. Those teams were going to be looking better at the beginning of the season. Like I expected the Rockets to be 3-2 at this point. I really did, even regardless of the position I put them. The team I
Mm-hmm.
have to regret right now is the Mavs.
Mm-hmm.
Just
Yeah,
it.
yeah. They've been an AD just got hurt, which is like,
AD got hurt. Cooper
yeah.
Flag is just like now he's like
Well, they're
very
making him play the point, and it's like, yeah, but yeah,
like
it's
don't get me wrong, D'Lo had a really good game before, so maybe they're gonna start shifting that way. I think overall, like I think the Mavs will make the playoffs. I think they'll go be a scary team playoff time because everyone will be healthy, but that's also a big if at the
Mhm.
moment.
You think
So
they get through the play-in? You mean?
yeah, something like that.
Yeah, yeah. The Mavs have had a difficult start. It's like one of those things where, um, like, oh, AD is definitely going to get hurt, but what if he doesn't? He's going to be the best, I guess, second best defensive player in the league. And then he gets hurt, and it's like, oh, we should have seen this coming. You know what I mean? It's like one of those things that happens every year. I mean, like I mentioned, the Sixers have been a huge surprise. I think that they were not in either of our top eight.
I
So
mean,
that,
end of the day,
yeah,
like Paul George starting the season injured, we don't have no faith in Embiid playing, but Tyrese Maxey's jump and VJ Edgecombe looking like the front runner for Rookie of the Year by quite a
dude,
mile. Like
anyone who tells you that they saw this coming is a complete and utter liar. There's
100%.
no way,
The
So,
76ers thought this was meant to be a down year. Even they are confused, you
well,
know?
actually, who did have them in their top eight?
Charlotte,
Auburn.
Bauer,
It's ChatGPT. sponsored
Yeah,
predictions,
his
putting them number
ChatGPT, I
three.
swear, was like based off like the process still existing or something. Like,
Yeah, they had the Celtics in first, but yeah, the other thing, another regret on mine,
the
the
Pacers have been
Pacers.
struggling,
Yeah,
but that's really injuries to Mathurin, Nemhard. Like the people that we thought would be taking a step up this season was like Nemhard and Mathurin, and they both have started the season with injury problems. So I feel like I don't know how much of that is really on us. The big surprise is the Bucks with Ryan Rollins, who's taken a huge like
the Bucks
pride.
have been really good. That was gonna be my number one regret. Um, they've been yeah they've been really good, and I had them completely out of the top eight. You at least had them in number six. I was just thinking like Giannis doesn't survive the season there. They're gonna start off poorly, and he's gonna want out. But yeah, the Ryan Reynolds is just incredible, and definitely did not see that coming. Uh,
They have
and
Cole Anthony. They've had a lot of people that have just stepped up that have been new additions that we just
Mhm.
didn't really expect, you know?
The Spurs, I think that like everyone had assumed that the Spurs needed a couple more seasons to really be in this position. I don't think people expected this kind of a jump from Wemby, but I think even more so is the jump from some of their other players.
I agree. But let me say one thing. Why I'm not considering it a regret just yet, because I said they were gonna be a playing team. The quality of opposition so far, okay, the first game against Mavericks was very impressive. Okay, I'll say that. But then they followed up by playing against Pelicans, who they beat in an OT game. The Nets, who's 0-6.
Yeah, the Nets are terrible.
The Raptors, who in themselves are like an okay
Great. Yeah.
team. The
Mm,
Heat, who were missing Powell, I believe, by this game when it came around. Yeah,
true.
Powell not play, so they're missing their main scorer. And then the last game that they had, I forget who it was even against. It was against the
The
Sun, of course,
the
the
Suns,
Suns, who
and they
they
lost.
lost.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
we'll
it was
see.
their
The
first
Lakers play in
season.
2 days against the Spurs, so we'll see what happens in that game. That I think that is a better comparison to see, but the Spurs probably have had the easiest opening to a season
Yeah, and Wemby only had 9 points
against the
last
Suns.
night against the Suns. Yeah, I don't know. And the Suns have Mark Williams, who is a good defensive center, and
But another one of those
maybe
injuries.
Wemby is still going to struggle. Yeah, he is extremely injury prone, but maybe Wemby will still has some like learning to do when it comes to playing against these like really big,
Yeah,
athletic centers.
the first game was just crazy because he got AD into foul trouble so early that it was just like, yo, Wemby's figured it out. But I will stand by this when I say Wemby, you can say is the most skilled player in the league, but versus almost any other of the top players in the league, when you're looking at like Doncic, Shea, or like Jokic, all of them have a much more signature move to them that
One
they
hundred
always
percent. Yeah,
rely on and always go back to. Like even if you want to say Doncic being able to do the pick and roll, he jails a person, is the same repetitive move he does. Wemby, it feels like when he gets 30 points, it's a highlight reel, which doesn't
yeah,
feel like as consistent or like as
yeah. And the
dependable.
matter of the fact is, none of those players you mentioned are going to they're not going to have a 9 point game
Yeah,
completely healthy. It's just
because they have a move. They have a move.
yeah,
Jokic has a move. The hook. You've got Shea, who's got the same midi. You've got Doncic, who's got the same pick and roll, like jail the player. And Jokic, of course, he gets his hook through lots of pick and rolls. So it's like they've got a move. Wemby, he does have a move. You know
I
what I'm
completely
saying?
agree. That's a really good point, actually. Yeah, he doesn't have that move to go to, and then he'll always be a. I mean, defensively, he's going to have a few blocks a game. That's not a surprise. Yeah. Other than that, I didn't really have any regrets. Like, I think it's still too early to say anything. Like, you have the Suns. I mean, not Suns. Sorry, the Trailblazers at 4-2. Probably not going to last. The Clippers started off terribly. Now they're 3-2.
We shouldn't react to like quickly because if we had
Yeah.
reacted even 2 games in the season, the Rockets would have been 0-2, and now they've won their last 3 games. So
Hmm.
it's like this is why we got to revisit it every like 10 games and just slowly have
Yeah.
these.
One thing we can say for certain: the Nets and the Pelicans are trash. That
Yeah,
I feel
that's
comfortable
undoubted.
saying. All right. Cool. Well, the Lakers play tonight against the Trailblazers, who beat us already this season. Um, Without Luca. Luca's back now, and so yeah, I'm sure we'll talk while that's going on. But I believe that's it for the podcast. Thank you for listening. I'm Ahmed. With me has been Karam, and we'll see you next week.